Okay, this is going to be an intermediate video talking about a cast from damage taken setup relying primarily on Beast Fur Shawl and using that after it got ridiculously buffed. So we'll cover how the build exactly works and kind of like what some of the play pattern problems are, and then how can we solve for those play pattern problems. So it's more kind of going through the thought process. This is not a done build, although it's working relatively well. First things first, we are level 82, which to be playing cast from damage taken in a semi-functional state at level 82, pretty good. We have a lot of things that are not optimized and need to be cleaned up, but we have a lot of things that are working relatively well. So our core premise is we're going to take a lot of elemental damage, and then we're going to recoup that elemental damage into mana, which allows us to power our cast from damage taken, and recoup that elemental damage into energy shield, which allows us to sustain taking the damage. The way that this character is set up right now is that we have wow, where's the character screen? There we go. Where are my charges? We have a 7 charge maximum on frenzy and a 9 charge maximum on power charges. So how does that work? Well, the important thing isn't the frenzy charges, it's the power charges. Because we are using the power charges combined with the unique belt called the Graven Secret, which is not considered as good, which allows our power charges to become absorption charges. Because through absorption charges, each charge gives us a 12% recoup of elemental damage taken. Because we have 9 of them, we get 108% recoup. 9 times 12. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. So for each point of elemental damage, we are gaining 1.08 points of energy shield back. Until you consider Beast Fur Shawl. Beast Fur Shawl has in this one, you can get it up to 100%, has a 96%, let me turn off the title. It has a 96% increased energy shield recovery rate. This affects recoup. So for every point of elemental damage you take, we recoup 2 points. So this becomes an absolutely insane amount of recovery of energy shield once we get going. So the next thing is like, how do we take damage? I'm running 2 Storm Secrets. These are nice because they allow us to take a lot of lightning damage while we have Herald of Thunder operational. So as long as we shock something, Herald of Thunder starts, and Herald of Thunder hits very frequently, about 8 times a second or so. And we take 250 lightning damage. So it's 500 times 8, 4,000 damage a second. We take about 1,000 damage a second just from Herald of Thunder after we take into account resists. Then of course Beast Fur Shawl increases that by 10%, so that's 1,100 damage a second, and this sword happens to increase the damage taken as well by about 7%, so 170% damage, of 1,170 lightning damage a second from our Herald of Thunder. Our Herald of Thunder is a 1-link. Right, this is not a very exciting Herald of Thunder, it's level 11. All my gems are not leveled. I do woefully inadequate damage for what I could be doing at this level. But that is one source of damage. Now the challenge is it's capped. It's a very consistent 1200 damage we take a second. but you can't scale it up. It's really hard to do that. That's where the Eye of Innocence comes in. The Eye of Innocence only gives us 100 fire damage when we ignite someone. Well, that's great. 500 lightning damage whenever we have Herald of Thunder zap something seems a lot better. But this scales, right? So a screen full of enemies, Eye of Innocence will hit you much, much, much harder than Herald of Thunder. But for a single enemy, Herald of Thunder will hit you very consistently, whereas creating a lot of hits on a single enemy turns out kind of tricky. Alright, so let's take a look at where the build is at now, and then we'll talk about how the gem setups are and what cast from damage taken setups I'm using right now, and why I'm going to change some of it. Apologies to my PC for what's about to occur to it. Alright, so we got hit, and as soon as we got hit, it triggered the thing. And there's a few things to note. First of all, on occasion we hear the message that our mana is gone. That is in general a bad thing, because when our mana is gone, that means that we are not able to leverage all of our spells. Hey, there it is. That's what I was looking for. Anyway, so it's a walking simulator as soon as it's up and running. And right now we're just running around. Where is this chest? There it is. And I really hope that the audio effects are not awful. But what's interesting is that right now we have this buff up, but we don't do the damage. Right, so right now, as soon as he poked us, it started, but just walking close to somebody wasn't good enough. Right now it is, because we have the Herald of Thunder buff up. So the Herald of Thunder buff allows us to bridge the gap between packs. This is a tier 6 map, by the way. Just some random corrupted thing I found in my inventory. And, oh, they're not dead yet. And we have a lot of recoup. You know, we don't have to worry a whole lot. But we also realize that there's a couple of things that are kind of clunky. The first thing that's kind of clunky is that our mana is just not having a good time. Right, like when we have a full screen of enemies, we see that our mana becomes full. That's fantastic. I can't actually successfully do this with the way I'm spec'd, so I'm gonna ignore him. So yeah, if there's a lot of enemies, life is good. If there's not a lot of enemies, we tend to kind of run out of mana, like when there's just density isn't good enough. So that is one of the things that I want to see if I can fix it. I also realize that on occasion you have rare mobs and you just have a hard time dealing with those. Bosses, I mean, it's bad, right? Like, we're running around, we're getting stunned a bunch, we do a lot of damage, but it's not like, wow. So the single target is just kind of mediocre. Were there 2 bosses here? Why are we still going? I think it's just this map always has 2 bosses.
My mana is gone.
And there is the important message to listen for. Our mana is gone. I don't know if the audio picks that up. Alright. So, meh. That was tier 6. Let's try tier 8. Waterways. Let's just try tier 8 magical first. Avoid elemental ailments. That's not good for us. I don't want to like make things worse than it has to be. So we're just gonna take a -5 max res. I don't want to mess with that either. One of the things you do want to keep in mind when you're testing things is that you don't go overboard with figuring out like what is working, what isn't working when you then introduce additional variables like minus max resistances. Technically, being down maximum resistances doesn't really matter at all for this build, and the reason it doesn't is because our maximum resistances, I mean, as long as it doesn't one-shot us, we recoup any elemental damage within seconds. So that's pretty good. Interesting thing, we definitely were getting a lot of issues there because we were getting stunned a lot. Worth noting. So we've both maps, we definitely saw more stunning than ideal. The other thing that we noticed is running out of mana. So both those things we want to fix. Let's level up those gems, that's safe. We're not really doing a whole lot of work on this. Like, I'm not popping all my flasks all the time. Our flasks are automated in a specific way, we'll cover that later. But overall, like, we're doing fine. It looks like we are able to do respectable amounts of damage. And we scale well with the number of enemies on the screen, which is really what this Eye of Innocence is expected to accomplish. And then when we get into a scenario like this, where we just have some elites left, we start to run into problems. So one of the things that we want to fix is, how do we get to the point where those elites are less important? Level 44, current level 40. Well, I don't think my rolling magma triggers anymore. Alright, so this was an example of where we kind of stalled and had to tiptoe around the enemies to trigger our damage loop. Which means that we didn't have our Herald of Thunder up, and we had to figure out a way to get things booted up again. Once our Herald of Thunder is up and running, then for the next like 8 seconds or whatever, as soon as we get near people, we're fine. We also have a Blade Vortex, which kind of does the same thing, but not really. But now we went down this line and we find out, hey, we're kind of blocked, we ran out of enemies. Our system isn't working as well until something hits us, and as soon as it hits us, then the system is up and running again. We also have a little bit of a fragile moment right around the point where we run out of any power charges. Because when we don't have power charges, which is a very short amount of time, right? We get our power charges back very fast. We generate them exceptionally fast. We do have a moment where we're a bit in trouble. Because Nico is on this map, Nico does provide us with some benefits. Over there, we nearly died. Don't do that. But overall, it's still relatively quick. Like, we are, you know, we're farming legions, not fantastically, but legions are not the easiest content, so the fact that we are able to do it within some level of convenience is nice. And, you know, during the course of this video we gained like half a level. When we encounter enemies, definitely the elites are our main concern. So those are the things to try and focus on fixing. And yeah, we'll finish this map and then we'll go and take a look at what the current setup for damage is and how could we adjust that setup to work better going forward. Wait, was that the boss? That couldn't have been the boss. No, the boss is still there. The other thing that's nice is you know that the fight is still going when the loops are still going, right? So we do need enemies on the screen for this loop. That one's messed up. Can't afford to pick that up. Alright, let's talk about some of the design decisions that are questionable. We're using Hiron's Fury. The reason we're using Hiron's Fury is because it has insane damage, it has a bunch of increased lightning damage per frenzy charge, we're gaining a bunch of frenzy charges, we're a raider. And then we use like Spellblade support. Our Spellblades are like level 5. I think this one is level 11. The reason that they are so low is because I just started working on this build. Then we have cast on damage taken, we keep those at level 1. And then we have our Spark here, which is a mana cost of 11 base. Now the mana cost is actually 38, right? Because when you look at this multiplier of 250% and the Spellblade of 130%, our Spark costs a lot of mana. Because we have all of our cast on damage taken loops on the same thing, our spells don't all trigger unless we have enough mana coming in. We only have 600 mana. Our Spark costs 38. Our Blazing Salvo is 44. Our Blade Vortex is 32. This guy is 44 as well. Our Glacier Cascade is 36, 38. Okay, so if we have 10 spells we trigger, that is about half our mana. So our mana capacity is fine for 10 spells. It's fine for about 15 spells. We don't have 15 spells to trigger. We have a Firestorm, a Glacier Cascade, so that's 2, a Spark, so that's 3, a Ball Lightning, so that's 4, Forbidden Rite, 5, Blazing Salvo, 6, Eternal Knives and Blade Vortex, so that's 8 total, and then we have a Rolling Magma, a Blade Fall, as well. So we have like 10-ish spells. So we have 200 mana-ish to play around with. And there's no negative for us to do so. Right, so there's some optimization room there. The other thing are spells. Firestorm hits a lot, which is great because we want to ignite things. Igniting things, when there's lots of things on the screen, really kicks the cast and damage taken loop into high gear, right? Because now the amount of downtime we have before our cast and damage taken trigger becomes very short. The other thing it does is it has a significant delay. This delay is really useful because we have the benefit that we the cast with damage taken reset period, which is like a quarter second, I think. Any damage you take to a quarter second just doesn't count against the next cast with damage taken. Right, so delayed damage is really cool. It has a drawback, you can only have 3 firestorms at a time. Right, and the base duration is 1.4 seconds. So realistically, this firestorm triggers way too frequently. And we don't really get the maximum optimization. Glacier Cascade, again, has 3 impacts, so that's kind of useful. But it's a meh spell for a lot of reasons. Although it does have very good effectiveness of added damage. So that's nice. It also does area of effect damage, which is nice. Allows us to ignite a lot of people at the same time. Hey, Spellblade, Ball Lightning. Area of effect. Lots of little zappy hits. All those little zappy hits are fantastic because it allows us to get all the benefit out of our cast from damage of all the ignites, and it has a delay, right? It does damage over a longer period of time, which of course works very well with triggering the cast from damage taken loop. Forbidden Rite. Projectiles that have to fly out probably hit too fast for cast from damage taken, but it scales really well with the number of enemies on the screen. Right, so if you're in the middle of a pack, it hits everybody in the pack. For single target, it still fires 6 projectiles. Half of those will probably hit the target, which means that it hits a single target 3 times, and it has really good clear. So Forbidden Rite is a winner. Blazing Salvo fires 5 additional projectiles. Pretty useful. Also does area of effect damage, so it can ignite a lot of people. It has 6 projectiles, so again, lots of opportunities to ignite people. Lots of I have innocence triggers. Very useful. Rolling Magma. This one is too high level. Goodbye. Bladefall. It has repeats, right? Fires 5 volleys. So that means that there's like this delay built into it. Because there's a delay built into it, you know, we have the ability to trigger our cast and damage taken loops much more frequently. We have a Vortex and a Discipline. The Vortex it's just there. It's a couple benefits from Vortex. One, we run up to a pack, Vortex triggers, we ignite them, we take a bunch of damage, we don't have to wait for something to hit us. That's nice. Discipline, level 13. Again, still leveling up my gems. Material Knives. Probably not amazing, right? It fires 11 projectiles. It has the potential of 11 hits, but against a single target, it will probably only have 1 hit. Against a pack of a bunch of enemies, it will have 11 hits. But compared to our other spells, that's kind of bad. Again, everything has Bladefall supports because we have ridiculous damage on this weapon, and we can scale mostly lightning damage. Right, so those are 2 spells that are kind of bad. So I'll be re-socketing those with something more useful. Okay, other parts of the build. These Painseeker gloves have some very interesting text, which is adds 16 to 17 fire damage. This is the important stat on these gloves, by the way. The rest is nice, don't get me wrong, but that's the important one. This adds fire damage to Herald of Thunder. Herald of Thunder can ignite. Right, so if we go in here and we look at our Herald of Thunder, there you go. It does cold damage, lightning damage, and fire damage. This is a way to get fire damage onto your Herald of Thunder. Herald of Thunder, it's easy to add cold damage to it, it's easy to add lightning damage to it, but adding fire damage is a pain in the ass, because added fire damage to attacks doesn't work, added fire damage to spells doesn't work. So you need unconditional added fire damage. There's not too many ways to do that. This happens to be one of them. So this allows a Herald of Thunder to ignite, which increases our damage taken from the Herald of Thunder, which is really the only stat we care about with a Herald of Thunder, is the damage it does to us, not the damage it does to the enemy, by 20%. Right, because we take 500 from the lightning damage from the Herald of Thunder hit, and then we take 100 additional fire damage when it ignites something. So it boosts that loop. Is that worth it? Right? Is this 20% increased damage on Herald of Thunder worth it? Is it worth it to ignite things with Herald of Thunder? Maybe. Right, there's definitely some questionable bits about that. Is it worth to have elemental weakness on hit, and is it worth it to have +1 maximum frenzy charges? Yeah, that's pretty good, turns out. The rest of it is definitely questionable as far as the decision. Malachi's Loop, this is how we get our power charges. This thing is amazing in combination with Graven's Secret. It does spell damage, it has energy shield, it has +2 power charges, 20% chance to gain a power charge on hit, that's amazing. 13% increased spell damage per power charge, that line does nothing. Lose all power charge upon me reaching maximum power charges, that line does nothing. Shocks you when you reach maximum power charges, that line does nothing. So really this is an item that gives you 20% chance to gain a power charge on hit, +2 maximum power charges, and 240 energy shield. But it's a really easy way to generate a lot of power charges, which is nice. And it does it quickly, because we hit incredibly frequent. We shoot to get up to the point where we have our 9 power charges. We should only have to hit enemies 9 times, well, 5, so 36 times. Hitting enemies 36 times with spells that are optimized to get as many hits as possible, not too bad. Alright, so we just got rid of 2 spells.
I'm not a
Wrong vendor. So what we want is Volatile Dead. Which I have never played with before. Turns out it's a green gem. Volatile Dead. Why is Volatile Dead nice? It consumes 3 corpses. Sure. It then creates balls, and those balls will seek enemies out, and it will deal damage based upon the corpse's maximum life. This is incredibly useful, because it allows us to do lots of damage. We're actually going to shovel it over here. And that means that our Blade Fall and our Blade Vortex hang out together in here. And now we have a blue socket left. And we're going to use Cascade. Spell Cascade will repeat the spell twice. So ideally, this spell will generate 9 balls, which will deal damage based upon the corpse's maximum life. The biggest reason that we're going to try this swap is because we want to see what is the effect this has on a single target. Right, so we just did a tier 8 map. Let's get rid of this real quick. And let's go find another tier 8 map. What tier? Tier 9. Are you conveniently rolled? Suppress, reflect. Woohoo. Yeah. Tier 8. We did waterways, right? I'll just do another waterways. Totems. I believe that's the exact same thing we had before. Chance to avoid ailments is a bad one, because we don't exactly know what that's going to do. Reduce flash charges is, I mean, it's not good, but it's fine for the purposes of testing things out. Alright, so what we're looking for with this change is, does our single target markedly improve? Before, we definitely were running around for a while on some monsters, which we had single target challenges with. And now the question is, do we notably notice that we have better single target than we had before with these Volatile Dead balls doing whatever they do? I'm not a Volatile Dead expert. I've never actually played with Volatile Dead until now. So this is an experiment, and the way you find these ideas, is you just look what other people are doing. And then you say like, okay, well, they made this decision. Was that a good decision or not? I mean, that was a rare, and it went relatively smooth. It's not bad. Oh. Hey, buddy. So, we have one challenge right now, which is that we don't have ball spawning because we don't have corpse generation in our build. So maybe we need like a corpse generation type fix along with this to do it. I don't know. We also noticed that our energy shield went really low.
Finally,
there. That is disconcertingly low. We are CI, so when that thing hits 0, it's a big issue. We need to find some more rares to see. Oh, Legion. Legion always has rares. You can level up, you can level up. Good. Now, the drawback with Legion. We don't have a... Oh, here we go. Oh, we got one of the chests. That's nice. Right, let's see if we can find some rares. And let's see if those rares are a problem. How do we not have a bunch of rares in Legion? It's not how Legions are supposed to work. Yeah. I don't have time to deal with that. Oh, here was a rare. So, extra life, all the resists. So, what we're doing right now definitely is probably going to need some sort of corpse generation to successfully work. Without the corpse generation, we just don't spawn the balls. And that means that either we never see a rare, because the balls will take care of it, or we have the alternate scenario where the rare outlives the balls, and then we have no benefit from Volatile Dead. It's just a dead link.
I'm not up to that just yet.
Again, having fewer hits means that our life total definitely seems to be going much lower than it did before.
My mana is gone.
Also, we're not immune for all of the things that's nice to be immune for. I can level this up. I can level up Volatile Dead, there's no reason not to. And it doesn't really make much of a difference, it looks like. Not unless we get corpses. Doesn't really make much of a difference. So, yeah. So VD, Volatile Dead, it improved things, but it also needs more support than I'm giving it right now in this build. Alright, so we'll be doing more of the debugging, or I'll be doing more of the debugging off stream. That was about a level's worth of experience. Nah, not quite, like 15%, we started like 50%, so about half a level, 83 now. Passive tree, not really worth a lot right now. Picks up power charges and frenzy charges. We're almost spell suppression capped. We pick up a bunch of energy shields. We pick up chaos inoculation. We pick up fire mastery for 100% increased damage with hits against ignited enemies, which is pretty sweet. We have elemental overload. Pick up the int node up here. Oh, we do pick up Ghost Reaver. Ghost Reaver, when the Vessel of Victor is up, means that the amount of leech we get with the instant leech is also probably enough to sustain the damage we're taking. And there's some elemental damage and resists. All the jewels are pretty much just to fix resists. All resists, fire cold resists, our gear gives us enough lightning resist. We have a bunch of uniques, so we have a lot of need for help on the resists. Is this tree optimal? No, it's not. There are things I'm eyeing like Zealot's Oath. Possibly just sprinkle in some what do you call it? Righteous Fire. I think that Righteous Fire will be relatively easy to support. Going low life instead of CI is an option. So there's a lot of things to figure out on there, but right now the thing I'm focusing on is just leveling up my gems, and as I level up my gems, it's like, what are the things that I can improve relatively easily to make the build feel a lot better. Right, so Bladefall, we could take Bladefall out,
I'm not up to that just yet.
and then next test will be to be like a corpse skill. Cremation, desecrate, generates 5 corpses. Fantastic. It doesn't hit. So doing this will reduce the frequency of our abilities to trigger, but it gives us corpses. The other challenge is how high level do we need this to be for it to work well. So we'll have to level this up and at least figure out if this is even enough or if we need a maximum level volatile dead. And that makes more sense. So those are things to figure out. I think that Unearth spawns a corpse at level 12. Yeah, I don't know if Desecrate will make a lot of sense without a better way to trigger it. We could do Detonate Dead, but Detonate Dead will just blow up packs faster. Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna be a solution either. But that's what I'm gonna be doing. I'll be running through a number of these permutations and seeing what's gonna work well. But this is kind of the theory, and this is kind of the thinking through and the debugging of the build. A little bit rambly, but for people trying to travel a similar path, I think that it could be interesting. Oh, and the hat is a Mind Spiral, which has 90% of damage taken recouped as mana. Is that good enough? I mean, it's way more than we need if we're fighting a pack of monsters. Is it good enough when we are doing single target damage? I don't know. I need to figure that part out. Here, you can go level up in there. Yeah, I'll need to deal with that later. Alright, so we'll keep tweaking. We're now level 83. When we get to like a stable point, I'll have a updated video. Right now we are tier 8 viable. We don't really do much. We don't always have to put a flask up and things like that. I imagine that we might be able to do a little bit higher than that as well. 9, 10. Can I do tier 16? Well, not probably right now, but I think that we'll probably be able to get it to the point where it can do tier 16s, considering how well things are going right now. We don't have an anoint, so that's an area where we can get significant power, especially with these types of janky builds. We don't have... We have maximum life on our boots. Let's pretend that's not the case. I'll need to put something else on there because life, of course, does nothing for us. Yeah. Well, can I put energy shield on here? That'd be nice. Evasion rating. Increase energy shield. I'm putting this on here. It's more useful than what I had. So yeah, there's definitely some things to improve. Don't think there's a reason to quality these up. Damage elemental lightning. Can we quality this up to take more damage? Chaos damage. Attack modifiers. Quality enhances elemental damage modifiers on a ring. Can we scale this? Oh god, we can scale this. Well, we're definitely going to quality up our rings so that the storm's secret hits us harder. That will help out a lot. I mean, it's 20%. That helps us as much as the Eye of Innocence. I mean, you do weird things when you're doing cast when damage taken. Anyway, that's where we're at. Updates to follow, but this kind of gives an idea of where we're at right now.